Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And teach them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age."
I'm trying to turn myself on here. There it is. It is a pleasure to be here with you this morning for both Paul and I. A special pleasure for me to be able to share with you a project that I've been working on for several years now. When I first talked with Blair about the idea of my preaching, Blair made it very clear to me that I was limited to 15 minutes. And Blair's a funny girl. But it is this morning is a bit of an exercise in frustration for me, because I'm going to be very much summarizing what is essentially a 150 to 200 page book, manuscript that I've been working on, in around 15 minutes. Which means there's a lot of material that I'm going to be passing over. A lot of material I'm just going to give you little glimpses of, and there's a lot more to it than I can share in that time. But this is a passion that I have become entangled in for the last couple of years. Grace to you and peace from God our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Oh, one other thing. At the end of the service, normally that I do a thing where I say, "May the people of God say," and you just respond with amen. This morning we'll do that differently. We'll say, "May the people of God say," we'll say the word Aloha. But don't say it like it's a high school football pep rally, as is oftentimes done on certain airlines. Say it more like you're sharing a breath. Aloha, like breath. You'll see how it fits in at the end. On the morning of March the 30th of 1820, a small sailing ship named the Thaddeus first sighted the snow-covered mountaintop of Mauna Kea on the big island of Hawaii. It had been more than 42 years since Captain James Cook laid eyes on these islands that he would call the Sandwich Islands. The Thaddeus, a vessel under the command of Captain Blanchard, was carrying 18 adult passengers, 5 children, who after 159 days at sea were about to complete one journey and at the same time begin a new one. Casting their eyes upon Mauna Kea meant not only the end of 5.5 months at sea with all of the exciting adventures of an ocean voyage on a sailing vessel, daily bouts of seasickness being not the least. It also carried the realization that the endeavor that they had left Boston Harbor for was about to begin. For them, it was a vision full of anticipation and excitement. On March the 30th, 1820, as the Thaddeus came in sight of Mauna Kea, the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions began its mission project in the Hawaiian Islands. The American Board had been formed several years before the Thaddeus and her passengers ever set sail for Mauna Kea. Several congregational and Presbyterian clergy and churches had met natives from the nation of India, from the American Plains, and the islands of Hawaii, and were convinced that it was their moral calling to spread the gospel in faraway places, fulfilling the call of the Great Commission in today's scripture. Their first missions in 1818 were to the Native American peoples of the Choctaw, Osage, and Cherokee tribes that had just been forced into Oklahoma. Hawaii was their second endeavor. In 1809, a native of the island of Hawaii named Opukahea and a friend named Thomas Hopu boarded a vessel for Boston. Upon their arrival, they were to be sponsored by the Reverend Edwin Dwight and the Reverend Samuel J. Mills of the clergy of the New England Congregational Church. They would be educated, and with William Kanui and John Honolii. By the way, if some of you have spent more time in Hawaii and your Hawaiian language may be better than mine, just wait till you hear my French. William Kanui and John Honolii joined them later. They were sent to Yale University to tell of their faraway home in the Pacific. It was through these folks that the Congregational and Presbyterian churches learned about these idyllic islands in need of salvation. It was through these young Hawaiian men that the invitation to convey the gospel to his perished countrymen was voiced. They would speak about their homeland at Yale, at Harvard, and the churches along the travels throughout New England. They would speak about Hawaii's beauty, but also the need to hear the Christian message and the salvation that it would bring to their people as it had brought to themselves. Fortunately, Opukahea would die from typhus just months before the Thaddeus would sail from Boston Harbor. Thomas Hopu, along with William Kanui and John Honolii, would take up this mantle and encourage this first company of missionaries to sail to Hawaii, bringing this new faith. A fourth young Hawaiian by the name of George Kaumu Ali'i, the son of the chief of the island of Kauai, who had also sailed to Boston, would return with them, but he is a member of the crew. Before the Thaddeus first sighted Mauna Kea, there had been many changes taking place in Hawaii. The islands had been under the control of one king, Kamehameha the Great, for only 9 years, following several years of inter-island wars between the time of Cook's arrivals and Kamehameha's unification of them in 1910. The chiefs were impressed with the guns and ships of these pre-missionary foreigners. They were also enticed and enamored by the many new objects that they were introduced to by these people. These foreign ships and crews were encouraged to make Hawaii a convenient resupply port from the Boston or London route over to Canton, China. Through these ships and crews, Hawaii was being exposed to different styles of government, to new diseases, and of several different kinds of foreign people, each with their own different ways. The most recent change on the islands before the arrival of the Thaddeus was in the role of women in both the family and in the government. And with this, a major change in the removal of the kahuna's religion and the kapu laws. These new 18 souls that Thomas Hopu brought with him came with the express idea to save the heathens. But for the most part, it was their desire to give to the people of the Sandwich Islands, rather than to take from them. Thomas Hopu would assist them in gaining the trust of the monarchy and use that trust to shape his changing Hawaiian culture. Along the way, our missionaries would make mistakes. They would bring with them their cultural biases, their personalities, and not always understanding the long-term consequences of their actions. But these first missionaries would have many more arguments and confrontations with the other haulis, the other white foreigners in the islands, than they ever would with the Kanaka Maoli, the native-born Hawaiians. They would, some 35 years later, be disempowered by these other white foreigners through their lies and slander designed to undercut the influence of the missionaries. Yet it was these early missionaries, invited by Opukahea and Thomas Hopu, and sent by the American Board, who brought in the midst of a religious void faith to these island people. It was these missionaries who developed a written language and brought literacy to the people of Hawaii. They would bring some additional ethical laws for the protection of the Kanaka Maoli. They would guide the Kanaka Maoli in their land rights when the Great Nahili was established in 1848. The Great Nahili was the process whereby land was set up in a buy-sell arrangement, which was not the case before. The missionaries were not only involved in setting up the process, but more involved in enabling the common Hawaiian to become involved in that process to obtain that land for themselves. And the missionaries also provided to the Native Hawaiian community as much protection as was possible in the early 1800s against the great diseases that would come. It has been said that it is probable that there would be no Hawaiian race today if it were not for the presence of the missionaries in Hawaii. I would add to that the belief that the monarchy would not have survived beyond the reign of Kamehameha III, some 40 years before Queen Liliuokalani ever took the throne, without the presence of the missionaries. Thus, with the calling from God, the church, Thomas Hopu, Kanai Jahuli, the unofficial ambassadors of Hawaii, this band of 18 adults, 5 children, left New England for the tropical islands of Hawaii. Between 1820 and 1850, approximately 143 people, 77 missionaries, and 66 wives were sent by the American Board to the Sandwich Islands. Not all who ended up in Hawaii were destined for Hawaii. Some were originally sent to this strange faraway place called Oregon, and some to the Marquesas Islands. But due to the problems in these 2 locations, they end up in Hawaii. In Oregon, it was the Whitman Massacre that was the issue that redirected them to Hawaii, the Whitman settlement being another one of the mission projects of the American Board. But one of the biggest misunderstandings about the missionaries is this idea that the missionaries were just clergy. Not true at all. Almost half of the missionaries were teachers, doctors, printers, and bookkeepers. The highest number of missionaries, including wives but not children, on all the islands at any one time was 87 people. That was in 1837. By the 1850s, at the end of the missionary period, there were less than 80 missionaries on the Hawaiian Islands, but there were over 2,000 foreigners, not including Chinese. Some of these were European diplomats. Most of them, though, were from the east coast of America, but had no association with the American Board Mission Project. Missionaries included such names as the Reverend Hiram Bingham, the Reverend Asa Thurston, Elisha Loomis, a printer who established the first printing press west of the Rockies. Samuel Ruggles and Samuel Whitney were teachers and lay preachers. Reverend William Richards in Lahaina. Miss Betsy Stockton, the first black female missionary sent anywhere, who was a teacher. Reverend Lauren Andrews, the founder of Lahaina Luna High School, the first high school west of the Rockies. Reverend Lauren Andrews, the founder, I just mentioned Lauren Andrews. Dr. Garrett Judd would become the most prominent translator and advisor to, and eventually the foreign minister of Kamehameha III. He would see them through the first 2 overthrows of the monarchy. This missionary list includes the Reverend Dr. Dwight Baldwin, who would play such a pivotal role in the response to the measles and later the smallpox invasions. Reverend Richard Armstrong, who would replace Reverend Bingham at the Kauai Church and eventually become the Minister of Public Education. Amos and Juliet Cook, who would begin the chief's children's school to educate and prepare the children of the monarchy who would later become the kings and queens of the monarchy. Daniel Dole would become the founding principal of Punahou School, a school originally intended for the children of American foreigners, including missionary children. It still exists today, and has had not too long ago a somewhat graduate of note by the name of Barack Obama. Daniel is only a distant uncle to James Dole. James Dole came after 1900 to start a pineapple plantation. He's a distant uncle between James and Daniel. Daniel's son Samuel would become the first president of the Republic of Hawaii and later the first governor of the territory. Reverend Samuel Chenery Dana is technically not one of our missionaries of the American Board, as he was sent by another congregational-based organization known as the Seaman Friends Society, also out of Boston, but their mission was to minister to the Haole maritime community in Honolulu rather than to the Native Hawaiians. He would become the founding pastor of what is now Central Union Church, our very large UCC church in Honolulu. He also played a pivotal role in the establishment of the first Chinese Christian United Church of Christ in Honolulu. He would also be the officiating pastor at the wedding of Queen Liliuokalani and John Domus. The list includes David Lyman, who would form the Hilo Boys School, Reverend Lorenzo